Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. I thought I would make a video for this evening just because we have all this weather upcoming over the next 48 to 72 hours, basically all the way through the weekend. So in this video, we're going to really just talk on tomorrow's severe weather threat and Saturday's severe weather threat. We are also going to have severe weather for Sunday, but in this specific video, just Friday and Saturday. It'll be sectioned out timestamp wise for you guys to, if you're just worried about tomorrow, then that'll be right here at the beginning of the video. If you're just worried about, say, Saturday, then that'll be the entire second half of the video. So definitely, watch whatever you need to watch so you can get the information that you need. So I'm very concerned, especially about Saturday, guys. I'm going to speak on this as we go. And really just going to focus in on the outlook and then some short range model guidance. And I'm going to try to give you guys time frames as far as hour by hour. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to mention towns and cities. And we're just going to, make our way nice and slow through this video. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. I'm praying for all you folks that got storm anxiety. Everybody that's in the impact zone of this severe weather risk, I'm certainly praying for you guys. Me and my family are, and I'm sure a lot of other people are also. Let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest outlook for tomorrow, for Friday. This is starting Friday morning, going all the way into Saturday morning. So let's talk about this. So first off, the red area, okay, that is what we call a moderate risk, level 4 out of 5. The orange, level 3 out of 5. Okay, that's what we call an enhanced risk. And then the yellow is a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. And the dark green is what we call a marginal risk. So the next category up from moderate risk is a level 5 out of 5, and that is a high risk. That would show up in a pink on your screen if we have it, if we had it, which we don't. And I don't think we're going to upgrade to a high risk for tomorrow, but I do think we have a shot to do it for Saturday. But let's just focus in on Friday for now. So let's zoom into this area. Okay, and hopefully you can see some town and city names on this pretty well. Remember, these videos do show up in 1080, so if it's at 720, which a lot of times it defaults at, switch it to 1080, and hopefully you can see a little bit better. But St. Louis, right in the middle of this moderate risk of severe weather. Other areas like Peoria, Bloomington, up to Burlington, Quincy, down to Carbondale, all the way down to like Paducah, Kentucky, to sections of, where is that? That's like Dyersburg, Tennessee, the entire Boot Hill, Missouri, and then pretty much just takes up all of eastern Missouri. Okay, now let's speak on the enhanced risk. All right, level 3 out of 5. All right, this includes Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Dubuque, all the way to just south and west of Chicago. Okay, that includes Evansville, areas of western Indiana, includes Jefferson City, Columbia, Missouri. Goes all the way through sections of western Kentucky, Madisonville, Hopkinsville, down to Clarksville, Tennessee, and stops just shy of Nashville. Does include Jackson, Tennessee, Memphis. It includes Jonesboro, Arkansas, down the Mississippi Delta area. I already mentioned Memphis, Tupelo. Tuscaloosa, you're included into this. Florence, you're included in this. Jackson, Mississippi, you're included in this enhanced risk. And then we got the slight risk, and this will be kind of the last one we really hyper focus in on. Then we'll switch it to the category risk as far as tornadoes, hail, and damaging winds. The slight risk includes Chicago, level 2 out of 5, all up to Rochester, over to Omaha, over to Lincoln. Nebraska includes Kansas City. Greenwood, Indiana, Indianapolis, down to Louisville, goes all the way down to Bowling Green through Nashville, middle areas of Tennessee, down to Birmingham, okay, all the way down to Hattiesburg, all the way back over to Little Rock, sections of northeast Louisiana, and then all the way through Springfield, Missouri. So that is the risk breakdown. Just want to take it nice and slow. Now, what's driving this? The tornado threat, let's talk about this. Now, I do think there is, a big threat of tornadoes tomorrow, but I do think winds are the biggest threat. But let's speak on the tornadoes because I know that's what takes a lot of people's attention, and rightfully so. let's zoom into this area and let's talk about it. So I want to mention this. If you live in this yellow area, okay, all the way down here, we will just say this. I know it says a 10% risk, significant tornado, 10% tornado risk. We can say it like this because the entire hatch risk area, which is the black outline region around the yellow area with the black dashes going in between, that's what we call a hatch risk, which means in this case, there's a chance of significant tornadoes. So if I click on this, let's just say that this area in the yellow has a 10% risk of a strong tornado, not just a tornado, but a strong tornado, which is considered an EF2 or higher per the Storm Prediction Center. Okay, now let's zoom into some of these areas. Once again, Bloomington, Burlington, St. Louis, higher populated area, over to Columbia, Jefferson City, Missouri, back over to Evansville, all of southern Illinois. Good chunk of western Kentucky goes all the way, excuse me, all the way to Owensboro. Includes Mayfield. Okay, we know what happened in Mayfield back in 2021 December. Paducah, this area generates a lot of tornadoes any time of the year. Okay, includes all of western Tennessee, all of northeast Arkansas, the Boot Hill, Missouri, Poplar Bluff, 10% risk of a strong tornado, Memphis, Jackson, both Jacksons, Jackson, Mississippi, Jackson, Tennessee, all the way down to Tuscaloosa, Florence, 10% risk of a strong tornado, Meridian. Okay, now if you live in this brown area, which I'm not going to zoom into all these areas, but the brown area is a 5% risk of a tornado. Okay, so that includes Des Moines, Davenport, up to Dubuque, up to Rockford, all the way through Nashville, all the way through Birmingham, Hattiesburg, up through Little Rock, around the Little Rock, I should say. And yeah, so the wind threat, though, is going to be the most significant with tomorrow's severe weather threat, no doubt about it. So in this pink area, let's zoom into this. That is a 45% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. There is a 10% risk, and not added on to the 45 to make 55. It's just its own thing. But there is a 10% risk that those winds could be significant, which the Storm Prediction Center considers that to be around 70 to 75 miles per hour or higher. So there is a risk of hurricane force wind gust in this entire pink area, guys. I mean, St. Louis, you're right in the heart of the highest risk of severe weather for tomorrow. But includes a lot of those areas I've already mentioned: Quincy, Burlington, Bloomington, down to Carbondale, all the way through Poplar Bluff. The risk of hurricane force wind gusts are here. Now in the red area, same thing, 10% risk of significant winds. That doesn't change. That even goes into the yellow area. There's a 30% chance of winds exceeding that 55 to 60 miles per hour. Includes, Des Moines, Davenport, all the way through Evansville, all the way down to Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, over to Columbia, Missouri. Includes a lot of areas. And then we kind of go on and zoom this out. And this yellow area, that's a 15% risk of the winds exceeding the 55 to 60 mile per hour mark. And you even have the hatch risk, the risk of significant winds extending into the yellow area, especially points north. And the reason, guys, I dive a lot into the ingredients in some of the videos that I did before discussing this, talking about the ingredients that's putting together this severe weather event expected tomorrow into Saturday. But the wind energy associated with this is going to be extreme in all levels of the atmosphere. So these storms are going to have a lot of wind energy to work with. But even Kansas City, more of a conditional threat. Storms might form kind of east of you, but if they form closer to you, you got a risk of all hazards. And then the health threat cannot be ignored either, even though it's not being talked about as much. I want you to picture this. Now, you have a risk of significant tornadoes, significant severe wind gusts, and significant hail in St. Louis. So in this red area, that is a 30% risk of hail in 1 inch in diameter or larger within 25 miles in any given location. 10% risk that hail could be 2 inch in diameter or larger. That's significant hail. And then in the yellow area, 15% risk of that 1 inch in diameter hail. And then you also have, in some areas, in the black outline dashed area, a 10% risk of that hail being significant size. So keep in mind that this area right here is running the risk of 75, even 80 mile per hour wind gusts. You mix that with the fact that we could get large hail, and we could have wind-driven large hail, which it could be just as dangerous as a tornado, guys, in some cases. So I just wanted to slow it down, really talk about that with you guys. And even though that took 8-9 minutes, it's worth discussing. So let's talk about some short-range model guidance. And I know I'm chopping some states off here. Trust me, I'm going to cover every state. And I know it doesn't say town names, city names on this, but hopefully you know where you are on a map. It's very important in anything in life, but especially when you're tracking, like looking at a radar and see if there's a storm going to hit you, you got to know where you are on a map. So let's go over this. Latest HER model, HRRR model, whatever you want to call it. This is valid for around 7 a.m. local time, Central Time, tomorrow morning. Nothing going on, and we don't expect anything to be going on. I mean, we take it all the way to about 1 p.m. Still nothing going on. Probably some gusty winds, but nothing happening. And then as we start to take it to about, and I'm going to show more of Iowa here in a second, we start to take it to about 5 p.m. We start to get these kind of lines of storms that begin to develop in areas of Iowa up here. They're starting to get close to Des Moines. These will have some very fast storm motion with them, meaning they'll be moving pretty fast. So we continue to go to, say, 7 p.m. This line of storms doesn't look like anything special, right, as far as anything super scary. But believe me when I tell you that this line of storms can produce all hazards. Fast-moving tornadoes, severe wind gusts, large hail, everything in this. And they're going to be moving fast. You're going to see them coming, and by the time you tell, your grandma, your dog that there's a storm coming, it'll be right on top of you. Now, Kansas City, where you do have the risk of significant severe weather, might not get a drop or thunder or lightning, might not get anything. The storms have a good shot of forming actually, east of Kansas City, but they could very well form around your area. But, you keep it going here. We get to about 8 p.m. We get to about 9 p.m. These are this is an intense line of storms. And it could just be one sweep through and then you're done. But there's another thing to watch here too. You see these storms right in here forming in the Boot Hill, Missouri. You want to watch these because they have a better, what we call, thermodynamic environment to work with. There's much better surface moisture down here. It's more humid. And these storms down here, if you can get enough forcing to get them going, have a lot more what we call overlapping ingredients to really work with. But the low pressure is way up here in the upper Midwest. So do you have enough of a forcing mechanism to get these storms going and sustain them? So we could very well have a line of storms stretching all the way down to Arkansas here. But, this particular run, as we're getting into about 10 p.m. tomorrow night, isn't showing anything. That doesn't mean there's not going to be anything. This run just doesn't show anything. We get closer to midnight, could have a nasty line of storms making its way through the entire state of Illinois, all the way getting into western Kentucky, western Tennessee. And even though these clusters of storms don't look very worrisome, maybe, if you're looking at them and thinking that, I'm just assuming, this will have plenty of ingredients to get to produce all hazards, all severe weather hazards. And this is around midnight. Okay, storms starting to move in like Evansville, all the communities and towns in western Kentucky, western Tennessee. And then these storms start to knock on the doorstep around 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in Indianapolis. They're moving through Chicago, moving through all of Indiana just about. And severe storms are starting to move out of Illinois at this point. And by the time we wake up to Saturday morning in Illinois, you're pretty much done. Just some strong wind gusts. But, I mean, look, this is like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. And these storms could be popping off tornadoes. They kind of got that kidney bean look into them, kind of moving into Nashville. So we cannot ignore Friday night or the nighttime periods in any of this severe weather. And then by the time we get into Saturday morning, we introduce the next severe weather day for Saturday. Okay? So for this specific area, if we look at let's back this up and let's look at the NAM, and I'll go through this a little bit faster because we'll be talking forever if we keep talking this slow. But same thing with the NAM. It gets this explosive line of thunderstorms that just basically spawns out of nowhere. Now the NAM gets this line of storms going in like eastern areas of Kansas and Nebraska. cruises over areas of not St. Louis, Kansas City, and we got this Boeing line of storms. And I think the setup supports something like this, but this line of storms, it looks scrawny, I know. 7 p.m. could be producing severe wind gust. And it could be producing tornadoes. And we kind of keep this going and we get into about 11 p.m. Same thing, shows some kind of clusters of convection shower and storms all the way down the Mississippi River, down to the Delta area. And this line of storms blasts through Chicago in the middle of the night tomorrow night, and then finally gets into Indiana, where we could be getting some strong to severe storms. Okay, now let's switch it back to, say, the HRRR model, and let's go all the way through, and let's stop it right here. What about the updraft velocity swath? This tells us where there's rotation in the atmosphere, and it picks up on plenty of rotation in that line of storms that sweeps through this area. So we could have fast-moving tornadoes. Okay, and it also picks up on very strong wind gusts through this area. I mean, and some of this could be just non-thunderstorm winds, meaning pretty much, what I said is that, you could not be getting any thunderstorms and just get severe wind gusts. But you can see you see these lines right here, kind of where it's sectioned off in different areas. That's where it's picking up on these severe 60, 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts in this line of storms. Very strong winds in this area. Okay? Now let's take it up the road a little bit, and then we'll drop it south. Okay? And I'll kind of move this a little bit quicker because I'm not as concerned up here in this area. But Friday morning, this low pressure starts to get close. There's that snow. And here's these very fast-moving thunderstorms. Do not ignore the severe weather threat up into southern areas of Minnesota. Heck, maybe even around the Sioux Falls, Sioux Cities area. But you see these storms firing off in Iowa? These storms will be moving fast. Low pressure right here in this region. And we could have some tornadoes up here in southern areas of Minnesota. And look at this line of storms cruising through Iowa, starting to get into eastern areas of the state. And I'm telling you, this is around like 9, let's back it up. This is around like 7 p.m. tomorrow night. This is going to be a fast-moving line of storms, and it could catch people by surprise. Just stay inside tomorrow. The storm, I mean, look at this thing. Look how it's whipping through. You get some thunderstorms even into like Minneapolis. I mean, this is like 10, 11 p.m., but I do think these start to lose some steam, but you're going to get some gusty winds. I don't think you're going to get much of a tornado threat up here. The air is just too dry. But, I mean, we're going to get some wild weather. Eventually, in the middle of the night tomorrow night, you'll get a period that could bring blizzard conditions, and any leftover convection is going to turn to this crazy banding of snow, okay? But we need to watch out in this area, and just to kind of, look at the predicted wind gust off this run of the HRRR model. Look how it shows these sections, like these little Boeing line segments of damaging winds through here. This little region right over here in southern Minnesota and Iowa, damaging wind gusts with this line of storms. So getting in tomorrow. So the rest of the upper Midwest, and to my friends here in the Great Lakes region, here it comes. We're starting to get into about 10 p.m. Look at this line of storms getting into northern areas of Illinois and getting into southern Wisconsin. Don't want to leave you guys hanging up here and not talk about you guys, but we could definitely get a sneaky tornado threat all the way up into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. And even though it looks like the line kind of falls apart, damaging wind gusts are likely with some of these clusters of stronger storms for sure. Okay? And we can even get some thunderstorms all the way up into like lower Michigan, like into the wee hours of the morning, Saturday morning. And then this line of storms should begin to kind of somewhat fall apart as it gets into Ohio for 7, 8 a.m. Saturday morning. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about a tornado threat in any of these areas, but I would definitely not rule it out. And, here's the wind gust that kind of moves through this area. We'll stop it right here and kind of go back down here. You can see where some of these clusters of like lines of storms right here are moving through Wisconsin, and 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts are possible right through Chicago and all the way into lower Michigan. Very strong winds. I think we'll get an all-out windstorm in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, probably late Friday night into Saturday morning. Even if you don't get thunderstorms or a strong thunderstorm or anything like that. So to kind of round off Friday's severe weather risk day, when you get to the southern mode of this, which I'll kind of look at this one more time. When you get to the southern mode of this down here, it's more of a conditional threat. Okay, so an enhanced risk, I mean, that's nothing to fool around with. But it's more of a conditional threat. So we'll start off Friday morning. Not a whole lot going on. We start to get a little bit of convection, maybe some showers down here, but you don't have a lot of wind energy. The upper wind pattern does not really support an all-out severe weather event for Friday down here, at least initially. But as some energy gets going, and models disagree here, I'm telling you, Friday night's tricky in the western deep south. We start to get to about midnight. Okay, it's about midnight tomorrow night. We start to get some supercells to start to develop around Hattiesburg Point South. I mean, down into southeast Louisiana. We even have this kind of messy cluster of storms all the way through Mississippi up into western Tennessee. You got to watch these cells. The atmosphere is already prime in the middle of the night tomorrow night here in Dixie. Okay, so these cells could already produce some tornadoes, I think, in the middle of the night tomorrow night. So don't ignore. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. Okay, so excuse me, guys. I've been fighting some allergies, and if I have to clear my throat a couple times, I do apologize. But this is like 3 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and we already need to watch these storms. And this isn't the main event for Saturday. So, so this is valid for around 3 o'clock in the morning. We keep this going. All right, and we start to take it to about daybreak. It's about 6 o'clock. Let's go one more hour. It's about 7 a.m. Saturday morning. We already have an ongoing severe weather event, and we hadn't even, I don't even think, gotten into the main event, which we'll talk about here in a second when we talk about Saturday. So we'll stop it here. This is Saturday morning. It shows already just a clustered up, kind of broken up line of supercells through Mississippi all the way back to Louisiana. And we have already ongoing on all hazard type setup in northern areas of Alabama, all the way up into the Cumberland Plateau. But like I said, a couple hours before, this is a big wild card. For example, the HRRR model doesn't show really much of anything ongoing in eastern Arkansas, which you do have a significant severe weather risk in. But the HRRR model run doesn't really show anything happening in eastern Arkansas overnight, tomorrow night. So, that's something to pay attention to. Now, let's back all this up and let's look at the NAM. What does the NAM show for this time frame? Let's start off midday tomorrow. Same thing compared to the HRRR model. Not a whole lot going on. We got some clusters of showers, some Gulf moisture firing up a little bit of downpour activity. And then we start to get into the middle of the night. It's about midnight tomorrow night. These are the storms that we got to watch. They don't look too bad on this run, but that don't mean they won't be. The atmosphere is prime, especially thermodynamic-wise. And as the surface feature begins to develop in this area, kinematics will begin to rise. Our wind energy needed to fuel the damaging wind and tornado risk begins to really get going. So this is what the NAM says for about 7 o'clock Saturday morning. It's definitely different. You compare that to the HRRR model run. And, well, that's not it. That's getting too far ahead. And the NAM does not look as severe as the HRRR model does as we're waking up Saturday morning. So, we'll do the same thing as we did for the other regions, and we'll look at the helicity swath through Saturday morning, and it's already picking up on those supercells in the middle of the night into the wee hours of the morning Saturday morning as it's showing some rotating updrafts in this area. And what's wild to me is already the significant tornado parameter is already spiking Saturday morning throughout this area. In fact, it never really goes away. It's just here all night tomorrow night, all the way into Saturday morning. You have ingredients for tornadoes. It's just, are you going to get lift for thunderstorms? I don't think the wind threat will be as big of a deal down here, so I'm not going to show it. All I know is it's more of a conditional and question mark kind of setup for tomorrow night across the western deep south. I don't think really a whole lot's going to happen while the sun is up. I think if anything gets going, it'll be late tomorrow night across the western deep south. So let me get a little bit of water, and let's now break down Saturday. All right. So if you're just tuning in to this timestamp, we're going to break down Saturday's severe weather threat. This is the latest outlook. There has been some changes if you tuned in from this morning's video, and we'll talk about those changes. So let's zoom into let's broaden this a little bit. This is the whole area, okay? And if you don't know what the categories mean, the moderate is a level 4 out of 5 risk of severe weather, which says moderate there. That's in the red. The orange is what we call an enhanced risk, a level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather. The yellow is a slight risk, a level 2 out of 5. Dark green, level 1 out of 5 marginal risk. The next category, if you're wondering, is what we call a high risk, infamous high risk, level 5 out of 5. And some people are already chattering about how this could go to a high risk. And I would say that the chatter is warranted. We could wake up to a high risk sometime over the next 36 hours with this event. So let's zoom into the moderate risk area, just like we did for Friday. So let's zoom in a little bit more. Birmingham, up to, might as well say Florence and Huntsville. Down to Montgomery, okay? All the way down to Mobile, down to Interstate 65 corridor, Hattiesburg, Meridian, Columbus, Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, Vicksburg, covering sections of southeastern areas of Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Hammond, New Orleans, Vicksburg, Canton. You guys, okay, moderate risk, level 4 out of 5. And we could very well get a high risk in this area, somewhere into this region right here inside this moderate risk. What has changed since this morning? We had an extension north of the moderate risk, a notable one, I would say. Okay, I think it stopped kind of around Coleman and Hamilton, I believe, this morning. The other thing that's changed is we've had an extension back southwest and deeper into areas of Louisiana, which makes sense. Okay? Now, let's talk about the enhanced risk area. Okay? The rest of southeast areas of Louisiana, central Louisiana, enhanced risk area, Alexandria. Okay? The panhandle of Florida going all the way to about Tallahassee. Enhanced risk of severe weather. This includes Panama City, Pensacola, Dothan, Columbus. It includes up to Macon, Atlanta, enhanced risk. Gadsden, okay, Auburn, up to Chattanooga, Tennessee, includes Gainesville, Georgia, very small section of the far northwest corner of South Carolina, and covers areas of western North Carolina like Franklin, up to Knoxville. Looks like it covers Gatlinburg, okay, Nashville, Knoxville, the whole entire Cumberland Plateau, just about, Columbia, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, and it does cover, several counties in southern Kentucky, just south of Bowling Green. Back over to Oxford, Tupelo, you're in the enhanced risk, Greenwood, and remember, I think James Spann has been making some really good updates. He's out of Birmingham. If you live in the Deep South, you probably know who he is. And he says it the best. Do not hyper-focus on what color you live in. If you live in the Deep South, you're under the gun for some severe weather for Saturday. And then we got the slight risk, level 2 out of 5, guys. This goes all the way up through Ohio, Columbus, Cleveland, Charleston, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Lexington, Louisville. The entire state of Kentucky just about has a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. Certain sections of Kentucky has that enhanced risk. And then the slight risk does, pretty much cover all western North Carolina. Go to the Greenville, Spartanburg area, Asheville, Hickory, all the way down to Dublin, Georgia, Valdosta. And then if we look on the western side, does include through Memphis, still including a severe weather threat. So that's a breakdown of the actual categories. Now let's talk about what these categories mean. At day 3, all we know, and when we wake up tomorrow morning and do a video, we'll have new information. They'll have the tornado risk, the damaging wind risk, and the hail risk all sectioned out. But at day 3, all we know is, hey, there is a 45% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in any given location. That's almost a 50-50 shot of severe weather happening from 25 miles from your location, okay? That's crazy. There's a 10% risk of that severe weather being significant. That could be strong tornadoes. That could be and remember that's tornadoes that are EF2 in strength or stronger. That could be damaging winds that are in excess of 70 to 70 miles per hour. And that could be hail this larger than 2-inch in diameter hail. So this is a big deal, guys. And this includes Birmingham up to Florence, Huntsville, down to Montgomery, includes down to Meridian, Mobile, Gulfport, Biloxi, Hattiesburg, down to New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Vicksburg. I think I already said that 100 times. Columbus. You guys not only had the 45% chance to see the damaging winds, remember, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself. 45% chance to see any severe weather. That's all we know right now. Okay, 10% risk of that could be significant. Now in the red area, Nashville, Chattanooga, Atlanta, Knoxville, down to Columbus, Warner Robins, Macon, Auburn, down to Dothan, Enterprise, all the way down to Panama City, Pensacola, okay, Houma, Thibodaux, Alexandria, over to Monroe, including Oxford, up to Nashville, I already said that, and just south of Bowling Green. This red area is a 30% chance of any severe weather, 10% risk of that being significant. Strong tornado, winds in excess of hurricane force winds, and then 2-inch in diameter hail. And then if you live in the yellow area, it's just a 15% risk of any severe weather. So let's section off the deep south first. This is the area out of all the severe weather chances over the next 72 hours that I'm the most concerned about is Saturday for the deep south. So just like when if you tuned into the first update with the Friday events, you know that this kind of oozes into Saturday morning for the deep south. So we're picking up where we left off. And the HRRR model only goes another 6 hours, so that's all we're going to be able to see until the next one drops here in the next few hours. But already Saturday morning, we're waking up to a scary look. It looks like we already have supercells ongoing in central Mississippi, all the way back down to sections of Louisiana, and clusters of strong to severe storms, most likely, if this is correct, in northern Alabama. Even some storms up here into Tennessee. Now, if we keep this going and we start to get into 8 a.m., this is 10 a.m., this is 10 a.m., okay? And then this is 11 a.m. That main batch of convection, shower, and storm activity begins to push into Tennessee, and this could develop into a flooding risk. And we're just getting clusters of heavy rain, probably some gusty winds, and strong to severe storms. And if you kind of look at this cell near like Gadsden, I believe is what it's called, like in northeast Alabama, it already has that kidney bean look to it. So the atmospheric players are already getting set that's out here on the field, which is out in Alabama and Mississippi. The thing that concerns me, and let's just finish the rest of this run. All these storms, let's back it up a little bit. So this is around 11 a.m. See these storms in Mississippi? They are producing all hazards. If this is the way it happens, they are likely producing damaging winds, large hail, and you're probably getting tornado chances out of this. You can already see the classic looking kidney bean look at this. The thing that really concerns me, guys, and both models show this, is you see this wide open area in the white. There's nothing going on. So what's happening here is the ingredients are rising into this area. Therefore, the atmosphere is not messed with, if you will. It's able to become more unstable, and there's no storms eating away at the environment that's rapidly becoming dangerous. So if we had a lot of clusters of storms like right into here and it was 11 a.m., then you would say, okay, maybe these storms can eat up the ingredients already there, and we can try to limit the atmosphere getting prime in the most favorable time of the day, which is the afternoon to the early evening, right? But instead, if you keep this going, and this is the last frame we got, this is for 1 p.m. Central Time across the Deep South. We have this line of supercells developing in Mississippi. Not developing, they're already happening. Going through Mississippi and heading right towards the Alabama-Mississippi line. And this line of storms will likely be intense all the way up into Middle Tennessee. This is a extremely dangerous look if this is the way it unfolds, which we have every reason to believe that it likely will. If you look at these storms and kind of the look of them, you see how they're kind of hooking? That is the model run picking up on the fact that we're going to have rotating thunderstorms. And if you don't know what the look of a tornado producing supercell looks like on radar, just Google it. And it just has that classic kind of hook to it. Okay. But these storms are going to move into a very dangerous environment that's being, pretty much developing across Alabama. And this is still like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Some of these storms in North Georgia could also be producing. But, the HRRR model sometimes has a bias towards overly convecting a setup. So there's a chance that, this could be a lot more discrete, which would mean you got a higher chance of more violent tornadoes. Now, if you switch it to the NAM, okay, it definitely looks different. Okay, Saturday morning, this is what it looks like. Then we get into about midday. The difference here is you're getting this big blob of convection already around 1 p.m. kind of moving up into the Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi area line, kind of where they all meet. But it does show an atmosphere becoming unstable right here. You see this clearing? But the storms fire a lot further to the west. So, say by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the storms are still way over here. By 1 p.m., on the HRRR model, the storms are all the way right here. Okay, so it's a lot different with timing. But, the NAM wants to just go full linear. But the NAM has a bias to do that. And it's hard to take it serious. But eventually the NAM, even by the time we get closer to midnight, Saturday night, begins to show a lot of convection across Alabama. So let's back it up here, and I want to just look at the HRRR model again. I just want to look at some parameters and stuff. And let's look at this. Now we got to go to right here. And then here, and then I just want to look at the significant tornado parameter waking up Saturday morning based off this run, the HRRR model run. Look how it begins to spike. I mean, guys, the values are about maxed out. In fact, it says a max of almost 20 on the significant tornado parameter. This is about as high as you get. So the higher you see these numbers, which you can't really see them in like the white areas, but I mean, that's in the teens. The higher you see these numbers, the better the ingredients that support tornadoes. And I mean, they are just maxing out the color scheme or code right here. So the atmosphere is becoming very dangerous. And you already look at the helicity swath just through the midday time frame Saturday, and it's already picking up on a lot of rotation in these storms, especially in Alabama. Mississippi. This stuff you see in Alabama, that's from the morning stuff, but I mean, it's already picking up on a, rotation like crazy. And then you look at the winds, guys, and I mean, they're going to be significant too. And it really shows the winds really getting going by about midday Saturday, but this is just the start. If you kind of keep this going, you look at the blend of all models, it isn't buying these extreme wind gusts, so mixing to the surface, but it does show very strong winds, and we're gonna get very strong winds through this area. This is like the Euro, for example. I mean, Cumberland Plateau could get some 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, so it's gonna be a nasty event, guys. So to go a little bit further to the north and east, this is what the HRRR model says. Clusters of storms dominate the entire state of Tennessee. These storms will start to make it into Kentucky, and this is as far out as we can go. Look at these storms getting all the way into southern Indiana. Strong to severe. This is around 1 p.m. local time. A lot of heavy rain and storm activity in eastern Tennessee. The thing is does all this convection right here continue to head off to the north and then allow for this convection right here that's producing tornadoes in the deep south to begin to wrap up into the southern and central Appalachian mountains? I have a feeling if this run kept going, it would probably show something like that. But it only stops right here. Now, if we look at the NAM, we can kind of keep this going. And it's definitely different. It just has a lot. I mean, it goes all the way to about 1 a.m. Sunday morning. Just has these clusters of strong to severe thunderstorms across North Georgia, Alabama, Eastern Tennessee, up into Kentucky. And it stops right here. This is as far out as we can really go. And we got some storms all the way up into southern Ohio. But, we just got to continue to watch this. The updraft Felicity swath goes crazy in Tennessee on the NAM. The HRRR model through, remember, this is only through about 1 p.m. Saturday. It's already starting to bring some spinning storms into Tennessee, into North Georgia. And, I am concerned about the winds through this area, guys. I mean, the National Weather Service disagrees in certain areas. For example, in eastern Kentucky, they're wanting to say 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts, which I agree with. But you can tell the National Weather Service in eastern Kentucky doesn't agree with the National Weather Service maybe. And I'm not saying they're arguing one another, but their graphics do not match with one another. You can see how weird the color schemes are right in this area. But I think western North Carolina, the National Weather Service out of the Greenville-Spartanburg area, which covers a lot of western North Carolina, has the right idea. I mean, going for 40, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts through this area. The wind threat through this region will be significant. There's going to be a flooding threat through here too. Just to kind of look at how much rain could fall in this region. A lot of rain could fall. A few inches of rain throughout this entire area. So, and then to kind of finish this video off, I don't want to ignore my folks up here in the Ohio Valley, Ohio, and surrounding states. I think Saturday morning we're dealing with probably a broken line of storms. How much of a how much of a punch is it packing? I don't know. It's a big question to me. But I think once we get in a little bit more range of some of these short-range models, which we really aren't yet, we'll have a better idea. But I do think things are going to go downhill in Ohio, West Virginia, and then areas of western PA as we get deeper into our Saturday. That's when things will start to kind of unravel, if you will. And if you look at the NAM when we go all the way out, it definitely shows something different than the HRRR model run. And I know that's not a lot of good information for Ohio, but there's definitely some model disagreement in this area. So we'll continue to fine-tune all this area. I won't leave you guys hanging, but I do think some nasty storms will move into Ohio sometime Saturday p.m. So God bless all y'all. Thank y'all for tuning into this video. I appreciate y'all. Stay safe out there, and we'll do it again in the morning. Talk to you soon.